Hello, Mike. How are you? Cyber Power of Tigray is now on with brother Mike Kasahun. Um, our broadcasting today is going to focus on how the Abiy administration has been starting to capture Tigray leaders and also the destruction of Tigray asset. And the last point will be we're going to assess and see about the view of the world, included some senators' statement release. So today, my guest is, as always, Mike Kasahun is with me. Mike, welcome to Cyber Power of Tigray.
Thank you, Ephrem. Good to see you again.
Great. So, Mike, as you know, Abiy Ahmed has started the war not 40 days ago, not 2 months ago, but they have we have heard a lot of trials that it was failed to capture the Tigrayan leaders. In Megala, there are some trials that he's trying to capture them. So now he is offering $10 million if someone is pointing out where they're at. So so how many trials are failing to capture those Tigray leaders?
I think you're exposing him now. That's. I don't think he can take that anymore. Sorry. Typically, we've been sort of intense and tightened up to talk about the issue that's occurring in Tigray region. It's not a joking matter, but the sad reality is that I believe today is day 46. This is administration who told the world that he was going to go to Tigray and capture the leaders of Tigray who were democratically elected by the legally registered 2.7 million voters in Tigray to elect their original leader for the state of Tigray. Let's not be confused that the national election was not held. Abiy Ahmed used an excuse to COVID to delay, and his leadership term ended at the beginning of October this year. So for over 2 months, Ethiopia has no legitimate and elected central government. Abiy Ahmed consolidated power and failed to mediate and lead the country, a country that it was handed over to him in a very democratic peace, that it was a model under the prior leadership. The fabrication after fabrication that he's made to the world and sadly to over 110 million Ethiopians is that there's a rumor that the Trump administration was involved in communicating with the Abiy administration at the beginning, and it's believed that his full top government officials under the Trump administration, the outgoing administration, that there's even rumors out there that he was actually given a $5 billion to help the military and the Eritrean military, which we knew that from the very beginning, over 140,000 Eritrean troops have been fighting in Tigray. And to take a back step from what I'm saying, Abiy had managed to assassinate various political oppositions, jailed many of the top leaders in Ethiopia that he knew would have been a threat in a democratic election process where the people get to choose who their leader should be, not a dictator, Abiy Ahmed. And I've stated it in our last conversation. Actually, Mr. Ahmed's new first name now, instead of Abiy, his name in Tigray as Meshrafet. So, instead of getting petty and the details of every little, let's just specifically talk about what he had attempted prior to the war, and he failed to achieve his agenda. It was clear that the world doesn't even fully understand that when the Tigray leadership was simply uniting its people in Tigray, respecting the rule of law in Ethiopia, the law was actually broken and continues to be broken by Mashrafat Ahmed. So the notion somehow that the Tigray leadership were obstacles to him, it's actually the opposite. It's Abiy Ahmed who's not only obstacle, but he's a killer now. Mashrafat Ahmed knows better that he is not legitimate central government in Ethiopia. He sent his special commandos to Tigray to kill or arrest the Tigray leadership. For those who are not following, initially he had 39 of the Tigray top leaders on his watch list to either kill them or capture and bring them to Addis Ababa. He sent 2 commercial Ethiopian airline flights to Mekelle a few days before November 4th to his foolishness that he somehow thought that by saying I'm sending 2 commercial flights full of money because Ethiopian currency had been revised and changed, that he had told the regional government that those planes were sent to bring new money from Addis Ababa and pick up the old money from Mekelle. And what we know that though is those flights actually were full of special commandos sent to raid and kill and capture the Tigray leadership. When the regional police security forces, which is very, by the way, let's make it clear, Tigray didn't just set up a security forces to defy the federal system. So the people who are confused, if you don't mind me, let me just take a couple minutes to clarify the Ethiopian system. Okay. As you know, and most people who follow Ethiopian politics knows, every state in Ethiopia has its regional military. While there's still a central military that is under the central government's leadership, every region has their own military. So Tigray made no difference or exception to the rule of law in Ethiopia. So under the Ethiopian constitution, it has its own security forces, just like the Amhara, any other region in Ethiopia has. Somebody can argue differently, right? Like they can say, well, you know, they were in power and leadership and all these things. But, you know, if we're going to be like bickering about, you know, who was, in leadership, in fact, actually, the Tigray leadership handed over leadership saying, hey, you've been complaining. Most of the top leaders we see in the military, for instance, I mean, they're from the old regime returned to. So that being said, the reason I'm clarifying.
I can help you on that. Actually, Mr. Dr. Debrecen is actually withdrew from to be a candidate when Hailemariam Desalegn was resigning. Dr. Debrecen actually said, hey, you guys, okay, I'm done with this. We're going to help our region. We forgot our region. We never helped our region. So we want to go and help our people. Please, you, whoever wants us to use this power, let's just go and then go for it. As long as you guys follow the constitution, you can lead this country. That's why Dr. Debrecen said. I'm just trying to help you on that.
Thank you. Well, so that talk about, respecting the rule of law and making room for others to step in to take the leadership role. So what Mr. Dr. Debrecen did is he opened the door for others to take the leadership role while he decided to focus on the regional level to help the Tigray people where he's from. And at the federal level, from what you're saying, obviously, and I appreciate what you're emphasizing, at the federal level, however, because of the protests and the complaint that we have seen, they open up the door. They say, okay, the Oromos have been complaining. let someone then step in and uphold the rule of law, and we'll vacate the spot for you. And they and successfully so, and openly, and the most transparent. I mean, it was all over the world that Abiy Ahmed stood side by side with the Prime Minister Dasani Hailemariam, who resigned, side by side, took the oath, swore under oath, stated that he will uphold the rule of law in Ethiopia. And what we see actually is hijack the rule of law at the expense of millions of Ethiopians. And now millions of, we're talking 2.3 million children are in needs of food today in Tigray. But let me just go back, finish up my point about the attempt for him to capture or to kill a democratically elected leaders at the regional level in Tigray.
Right.
Because he did that in other areas of the country. And so when he sent his special forces, the most highly trained to do so, they face the most fierce resistance and fighting within the regional security, because that was illegal. They were illegally trying to kill or capture democratically elected leaders of the Tigray region. So when that failed, then he, within days, he moved troops to the south border of Tigray throughout Eritrea. And he had Eritrea. I mean, he was massively flying in like hundreds of soldiers from Ethiopia to Asmara and to go along with the Eritrean fighters. So then the troops who were stationed in Megale and in the border with Eritrea, those who want to uphold the rule of law, they sided with the Tigray leadership. They sided with, there's like evidence, like, most like of the troops were speaking publicly saying, hey, it is the federal government that is actually against the constitution. So the Tigray people are Ethiopians and we are going to die with them because the constitution has been broken. So the central command attempted to actually remove the regional command, and that didn't happen. Then rather than sitting down on a table for a discussion to clarify the differences and resolve the matter, he sent foreign invaders, foreign armies from Eritrea and from throughout Ethiopia. And Abiy Masharaf Ahmed, if I'm saying it correctly, I've been actually, it was Masharaf, thank you. So I was watching a couple of clips, recently, and he's talking like in Amharic, and I understand Amharic, pretty good. So he's fooling the Ethiopian people, telling them, oh, we are watching their movement. He's referring to the Tigray leadership. We know where they're at. We know what they're eating. We know where their kids are. We know where their wives are. We know every step of the way what they're doing. And he said that we're going to
actually let me give you some hint on that. Actually, what he said is we are on the situation room now, and he came out to the parliament, Abiy Ahmed, and then he said, well, the two trials were failed. He sent special troops or commandos to capture the Tigray regional leaders, but he failed on that. And then finally, what he said is, after the war started, he said, in the situation room, we can see them. Right now, they are in Tempe and Abiy Adi area, all the Tigray regional leaders. But when we see them, they were with their wife, with their kids, and then there's multiple people around them. We don't want to hit them. We don't want to kill them because there is a lot of mess going on around. We're just waiting until in the morning because we can see them where they can go, what they can do, everything from the situation room. We have all the drone that gives us all this the activity and the movement of the leadership. And then finally, after all the war over, he's offering.
Okay, this is, sorry. That's
Okay. That's what he said, you know. I was like, okay. So what?
you know, he's such a coward
Uh-huh.
that he has no idea what he's talking about. You know, if he knew their movements and the several hundred special commando he sent to Mekelle to kill or capture them initially, and that plot had failed. Talk about terrorism. He's been terrorizing his own citizen from day one while he took the oath. So that is a without a doubt, without a question, a treason. When you invite a foreign enemy to come to your country and destroy your infrastructure and kill your people, and so if he was watching them, you probably saw it. In the last day or two, he actually said a week ago. Actually, his general said Tigray is liberated up until now. This is what he said in Amharic. Obviously, up until now, the Tigray people were hostages, which actually they're hostages today under the invaders of Eritrean forces, Amhara militia, and the central government, who has no mandate to lead Ethiopia today. He simply, the general Acha, said that we have liberated you from junta, is what he calls them, which is actually, reverse. But he say we're going to need help from the Tigray people to capture them. Then a few days ago, he's so desperate. He's asked the Tigray people to help him find them. In return, he would pay them about 10 million Ethiopian birr, roughly about 260 or so thousand US in the US dollar when you do the currency exchange. So he's put in like a bounty hunt on democratically elected regional leaders, and the lies and after lies that he's made. I don't even know if he has any sense of dignity, because when you think about it, I mean, sometimes, in politics, you can make mistakes. You can say certain things, certain words sometimes, but this is deliberately lying like every single day. I don't usually like to bluntly like call out on people at that level, but I have no respect for this guy. I think this guy, with a few of them harm, even the Eritrean brothers and sisters understand him now. They see the will and the strength of the Tigray people. Nobody in East Africa, in Africa, or in the world would actually imagine a regional security forces that were designed to simply help local polices within their own region would actually stand and capture and kill this many federal troops and Eritrean troops. That Tigray, soldiers has already made history in the last 46 days. That nobody had imagined that they would have this will and this strength. But the strength is that the people that you're killing, you're now asking them to help you find the top leadership who they elected to be their leader, and you handpick your own guy to be in Mekelle to govern the region, that where there's not a single person from Tigray that voted for you, but you have one person from Addis Ababa, Arat Kilo, which is the presidential palace, is what the Arat Kilo means, to handpick a leader. I mean, it's appalling, and it's disgusting, to be honest with you. And I mean, and the list goes on and on. But we're sick and tired of it. People are dying. 2.3 million children needing help. Enough is enough. And that 10 million birr that he's trying to waste it on stuff that he's talking about, why not use it to help the people who displaced, the people who are suffering in Sudan as refugees? There are Eritrean refugees, nearly 100,000 of them, who are scattered, and some of them being like captured. Who's holding those criminals who are raping young girls. I mean, the mental toll on so many of these children, psychological, emotional, and physical abuse, and those who are in group, 2-3 people walking. I mean, the horror stories that's coming out of like, you know, even Mekelle. I mean, just like yesterday, 2 young men walking on the street sidewalk of Mekelle were accused of being a spy and shot in the head without even any warning, without even any questioning, just like executing people. And I don't know, you know, how people interpret genocide, but when you massacre your own people using a foreign army, I think people need to wake up. And you know, people are actually waking up. We've seen it. Finally, number of US officials, as we know, are speaking out publicly. Elected officials throughout the nation, including my home state of Oregon. Our Senator Jeff Merkley has released statement of his deep concerns. We've been in touch with him. And what's happening, this is like a war that should never happen, but one man's hungry to power is causing thousands and thousands of lives and 2.3 million children. And this number that I'm giving you, by the way, is reported by the United Nations, unbiased report that 2.3 million children are in need of help. And several of the foreign aids have been murdered, as we know, which are the big victim of the group who's been helping the Eritreans and the Tigray displaced folks.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the truth. You know, the Tigrayan leaders are never cross the line. They've been following the constitution from the beginning until they are so uncomfortable to govern the region. They were very. He made them feel discomfort in their authority. He made them feel to think about the insecurity of by sending no communication with them at all. He's sending special forces to capture them, not only once but twice. He also the Tigray leaders were trying to talk to him about the relationship between the Eritrea and the Ethiopia has to be clear and needs to have transparency. He never done that. Instead, the Eritrean government, Isaias Afwerki, was invited to see the internal security matters of the Ethiopia, including not only the Addis or other places, but also the Ministry of Defense and the Air Force. He visited the Air Force, but there is no peaceful relationship in the entire of the people of Tigray and the people of Eritrea. So they were aware Abiy was planned to start war with Tigray. That's why he started the war. So, so like he said, he in the situation room, we can see them. We are there. You know, we know what they are at. But finally, he didn't even capture none of them. But he declared the war was already over. But the war is not over. The war is still going on. He's still killing people. He's still stealing multiple infrastructures from Tigray. And the Eritrean soldiers are taking multiple infrastructures like to Eritrea, cars, automobile from not only from the government but also from the individual people. They're looting the whole stores, like hotels, everything. It's just everything is taken out at this time. Multiple people are killed. In Moscow, about 80 people were killed. I heard yesterday from the demonstration. One of the rally representative was saying in Seattle downtown yesterday. So this is not okay. We never heard that the Ethiopian prime minister or any other prime minister will invite other foreign country to kill Ethiopian or their own people. So this is not part of any political problem in between, but this is clearly indicates that invading the region. This is the Ethiopian troops are invading the region, and also the Eritrean troops are invading the Tigray region. So there is no electricity, there is no internet, there is nothing for the last 40 something days now. So people are choking, they are dying. So the next question will be the destruction of, as I said earlier, the destruction of the Tigray asset, not only Mesfin Engineering, pharmaceutical industries, Sur Construction, and Trans Ethiopia. He is trying to control everything. I heard yesterday, actually, some of the Tigray asset, big constructions, companies are already taken by Ministry of Defense Ethiopia, by Ministry of Defense Ethiopia. The Prime Minister and they took them to the court and they said, oh, Ministry of Defense will take over this, will control this from now on. So what do you think doing this? This is, if he thinks to build, if he wants to build and rebuild the Tigray, if he thinks he wants to help the Tigray people, if his problem is with those only Tigray political leaders, why is he doing this all Tigray asset distractions?
Well, because he wants to destroy Tigray. I mean, there's not much of explanation to that question. Obviously, you know, you outline the facts on the ground. You know, these are, you know, state assets and individual assets. In any society, when you earn something, it takes you years to earn it. It's not given. It's you know, it's hard work, including any government property, regional government property. You don't just come and take it by force. Or for that matter, you know what's really sad is you allowing a foreign government, a foreign troops to come to your land that you say that it's part of your country, and you actually let them loot everything. I mean, just what Martin Plout just posted on Twitter just like a couple of days ago. 4 vehicles that belonged to a church missionary in Adigrat were taken away. Just recently, in the last like 24 to 36 hours, there was a massacre by the Eritrean troops. 154 civilians at a church, at a single church, were killed, and one priest among with them. You have the Sudanese moving in their militaries in the Amhara region area where it was disputed in the past, but there's nobody to stand in there and defend Ethiopian territories. But when you have 154 civilians, including the priest, murdered at a church, I mean, that just tells you everything, how coward these leaders are, both Isaias and Ahmed. The infrastructure that we're talking about, what I'm hearing also roughly about 190 fuel transportations in Djibouti that belong to the Mesfin engineering company. Is he sent his special security apparatus to Djibouti to take over, because about 5 days ago they managed to forcefully take around 37 of them, and nearly close to 190. He attempted to do that in the last couple of days, and the drivers of those vehicles united and stood against that and say to the Djiboutian government that this is illegal takeover, that these transportations are not owned by the federal government. In fact, they specifically, so that is like pending right now. So the Djibouti government temporarily suspended the seize and handover of those transportation, and we can go on and on. I mean, the churches that's been bombed, the massacre, the infrastructure that has been destroyed, the country has been robbed in a broad daylight. Yes, that is sad, but I don't think we should be caught up with that. I think we should focus in saving lives, ending the war, so that I think he's got a bigger agenda, which is to eliminate the Tigray people because of our ethnics. We know this throughout the country, how many people he's been rounded up and arresting them for no reason other than being ethnically known from Tigray region. If you speak Tigrinya, if your ID associates you with Tigray, you automatically go to jail. I mean, even North Korea doesn't do that kind of cruelty. I mean, like I know North Korea has very strict laws and it's got a dictator government. But this is like Hitler that wants to eliminate an entire region. When you have the UN telling us 2.3 million children are in needs of aid, and this guy is saying, I'm going to give you 10 million birr to help me capture the people. He said that he was watching their wives, their children. He knew what they were eating. Somehow that, I mean, he's delusional. This is the only guy that I can for certainly say he can actually dance without a music because he has no clue what he's talking about.
That's yeah, you're right. He can actually dance without the music because he has no clue what he's talking about.
I mean, he's such cool. I mean, sorry, but he's such clueless guy.
Yeah.
This is the most matured person.
Right.
It's really shame. Actually, he was given the most. This is like it's an honor to be a leader of a country. It is the highest honor any human being can ever get, to lead your people and your country. And when you are given leadership role, you go through a lot of challenges. Politics is dirty, but you do not abuse that power that's given to you by the people. And what Abiy Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki have done is precisely that. They have disgracefully abused their power and the power that was given to them by the people. And I don't even know the Amharas who are supporting him. Now we know Ethiopia is falling into pieces. You got Sudan now involved. You got various fighting going on throughout the country. Now he's trying to figure out how to control the Oromia region because they're getting out of control as well. They're just thinking like, okay, today is Tigray region, tomorrow is going to be us. So so his distraction is really, I mean, he is delusional. I mean, seriously, this guy is delusional because you don't have to be that intelligent to say, hey, I think this is like ethically wrong. I can't, even if I disagree with this politician, because the Tigray leadership, by the way, that he calls them junta, it is a political party. And his party thinks that they're the only one that should exist in Ethiopia. And that's exactly what Mengistu Haile Mariam have tried. He tried to consolidate power into one party. Obviously, we saw the devastating lives lost. So to answer your question, the infrastructure in Tigray, yes, it is very serious. And, I think the world is like, catching on to it. It's sad, but I think I just want the listeners and all, you and I to understand, we know this, but the listeners, I want them to know that materials is replaceable. We will help to rebuild Tigray later. But what we need today is to continue pressuring our elected officials across the world, whatever country that we reside, and make sure the war is stopped sooner rather than later. Because I'm worried that, we are every day losing our people, and that's what you cannot replace. Materials, we can replace it. We can go out and help. We have plenty of good people around the world that will come to the Tigray region to aid and to support the infrastructure to rebuild it. Tigray will be rebuilt. So I want to make sure the audience actually clearly, separate the two. While it's sad, let us just not worry too much about the materials. Let us focus on bringing peace to the Tigray people, to the Eritrean people who are suffering, and then we will work on infrastructure rebuilding and replacing. And his Nobel Prize, as a Nobel Peace Prize winner, maybe he will face the court of in The Hague when, in due time, obviously for the genocide that he's committed. Maybe he will join where Milosevic of Yugoslavia is sitting today, because Charles Taylor of Liberia and Milosevic of Yugoslavia went through The Hague and faced justice. And I hope that the world is preparing for that as well, for Ahmed and Isaias Afwerki.
Right. So, Mike, appreciate it for the explanation of the detail about the assets. I also have heard that there are some in Djibouti borders or area. There are some assets of Tigray people. Actually, big. I think transportation materials. He's trying to take them away, and the drivers are trying to protect them. And the Djibouti administration or government is also helping them. That's one thing. Is also I heard there are multiple. The looting is not only done by Eritrean troops, but also the Ministry of Defense is taking the through construction, dozer, and heavy operating materials, and a lot of Tigray assets are taken away from Tigray. So, well, I mean, have you heard about those two? Do you have any kind of rumor, or you heard something that you can explain that to our audience?
Well, I think I keep emphasizing on the human laws. Obviously, I think it's heartbreaking, no matter like how much of the information that comes out. Kind of what you're describing, I think I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit distracted because somebody just popped up on the screen about that. You popped out on what they're saying about the rebuild and whatnot. I think I'm like keep like emphasizing, focusing on the human lives lost, and that even the human life that we have lost so far, it's too late for them. And I think if we can focus on what we could do from here on out, how we can save more lives, I think the rest of the stories that are coming out on a regular basis, I mean, I think that is it's everything that's happening in Tigray right now is tragedy. It's not good. Mm-hmm. Let's just be clear. It is bad. I mean, we're talking the stories of those who we hear about, we know, we have information about. But what about the untold stories? What about the people that we don't even know? How many of them they're being murdered and buried in mass graves to conceal the massacre? I mean, I'm sorry that I'm hijacking your question, but think about the fact that he's refusing to allow international investigators to go in to independently investigate. What does that tell you? I mean, people should be feeling like this gives me chills to my bones. It is, there's more than what we are talking about and what the world is talking about. The senator, I think, the senator from New Jersey, Senator Booker, the statement that he released. I think you were trying to show it on the screen for your audience, but what does that tell you? The deep concern that more and more senators are now in the U.S. speaking out because civilians are being killed, and it doesn't need to go on. And for the Amharas who are just his propaganda machine and feeding his lies to the world and supporting him, I mean, shame on them. I think, it's a disgrace to abandon your own citizen while a foreign nation gets involved. And I think in the statement that I read from Senator Booker, it talks about how this war actually is not Tigray versus the rest of Ethiopia. This is a war internationalized, and it's very dangerous. And the world has an obligation not only to speak up, but to act, to take action. When you have foreign forces involved in a domestic affair, I mean, wake up. What's the United States and the UN doing? The European Union doing? I mean, come on. The US has clearly stated it. They have satellite images and they have intercepted communications. They have every fact that they need to know. So if Abiy Ahmed is not brought to the criminal, to be charged with genocide and face justice, we're going to allow another leader to just go out and massacre his own people. So, so that's, my emphasis is on the loss of human lives that we need to stop. I mean, we need to stop this madness. This guy is really out to eliminate an entire regional population and hope to stay in power. And that is very, very dangerous precedental.
Right. Okay. So I just want to take you some. There is some question that one of the Oromo, one of the Oromo audience is saying that I feel sorry for what's going on right now, but you guys never said anything for the last 27 years when our people is hurting. He said. So do you think? I'm just gonna say something clearly about the EPRDF administration. All the EPRDF administration, even right now and after, TPLF was governing their own country, their own region, and all the leaders are governing their own religion also. But of course, the prime minister was from Tigray, Prime Minister Meles, but he was always saying that the violation of human rights and all that to be corrected. And what he was doing is he was trying to fight the poverty, and he made Oromo and other states to be the best region than Tigray region. I mean, there are some people that they complain about, we have had some problems, but you guys never said anything. Well, I mean, I don't know if you have anything, something that you can explain about those complaints, but I believe we had a lot of problems to fix those issues as well. But the Opidio and the Amhara leaders were the one, they were corrupted, they were having problems with humanitarian issues. They have done a lot of problems for their own people, not Tigrinya speakers, but those are just documents. Those are just a documentary film that they made. Tigray people, they don't have that kind of inhuman act to do anything. They fight for uh, Derg to overthrow the bad government actually. And then they have done a lot for Ethiopia. And they are still complaining about what happened in their own region. So I'm just sometimes I feel like, do they know the reality? Do they know what self-administration means? What does self-determination and self-administration means? The TPLF never been interrupted. They never done anything wrong in between of those, but they use it. They use it to say, "Oh, okay, whatever happened is right now. That's fine because you guys have been done something." This is a genocide. This is just using displacement of the. I'm just trying to mention this. If you want to say something about this, but
Sure. So you have, I assume it's one of your audience. I don't know who this person is, but if this person is not pretending to be Oromo, I'll be surprised if they're not from the Amhara. But when you say it's terrible what's happening, but there is no but. I don't care what part of Ethiopia you come from. Like what you just say, we are witnessing genocide in the 21st century. And when genocide is taking place, somebody had the audacity to come out and say, "Oh, it's terrible what's happening to you." But when something like that, you know, the prior administration was not perfect throughout Ethiopia, could have done some things differently. But again, when you are given that high of roles and responsibilities, yes, you make mistakes. Along the way, you learn from your mistakes. Sometimes you avoid them from making the mistakes so that you don't have to always learn from your own mistakes. And I think that, under the Medless administration, Ethiopians, including the Oromos, gain one of the most transparent freedom that any Ethiopians ever had. I'm not Ethiopian scholar, but as a native born Ethiopia, no matter how long I have migrated out of the country, I follow it very closely. And I've traveled enough to see. From the first time I visited Ethiopia in 1999, over 20 years, about 20 plus years ago, I have visited back and forth. I remember my first visit to Ethiopia over 20 years ago. Addis Ababa was like trash. I was like really shocked actually that there was like no infrastructure, not even like a road that is clean enough to like for cars to even, go two directions. And I was just like, it was just shocking to me because I've never been in Addis Ababa actually. And then, I went back after that like a number of times, and it was amazing. And I have visited, believe it or not, places in the south and beautiful areas in Shashamene, Arsenegale, Debre Zeit, and throughout the south region of Oromia. An amazing culture, amazing people, amazing coffee, and so forth. And the infrastructure, like the roads, the hotels, the buildings, like millions of young Oromos get an education. The infrastructure, the way it was booming under the prior leadership. I mean, Ethiopia went from almost having hardly any girls going to school to over 80% girls in Ethiopia were, receiving like proper education, proper training, and being able to speak freely and publicly. And most importantly, if this Oromo person does basic history 101, they don't have to take my word for that. That the matter of the fact is that, during the Derg era, even though I was like a little boy, I remember what it was like being from Tigray, that we were forced to practice Amharic. That I remember people getting beat up, getting assaulted for simply speaking their native language. I remember the Oromos being insulted, just like when the Amharas insulted us. I mean, and forgive me to the audience, but there was this like slogan used to the Oromos to calling them Gala, to insult them, and that was outlawed under the Medless administration, saying it's just like Americans call a nigger to a black man and a black woman in America. And I think if they're complaining that during genocide it's bad what's happening to the Tigray people, but we didn't speak for them, we didn't stand for them, that's actually sad. That shows you how small-minded some people are in Ethiopia as we speak. When people are dying massively, we're not talking 200, 300, 1,000, couple thousand people. We're talking massive massacre happening and starvation and direct abuse that's happening throughout the region right now. The entire population is being choked. And so I respect the input or the question the person who is from the Roma, but we welcome this person to really open up their eyes and look at the reality on the ground. Because if you're going to say you didn't speak for us and you're going to just say it's bad, but oh well, too bad, it's your problem, what goes around comes around.
Okay, great. Okay, let's just jump into the the point of the world at this time. You try to explain everything from the beginning, how the war started. Before the war started, Abiy Ahmed tried to capture the Tigray leaders. He couldn't able to do that, even after a mass war of like different countries' involvement, including the Eritrean government and the UAE drones and the Eritrean, the entire Eritrean troops, the militia, the Amhara militia militantes, and other from Somalia and other places. He couldn't able to capture none of them. Now, he said that the law enforcement is over, the war is over, but he still couldn't able to get one. So I think the world is aware what's going on. This guy is, first of all, he's not elected person. He's the one he's not ruling. I mean, he's not keeping the rules of the constitution.
He's not elected. He's not democratically elected. I don't mean to interject, but the reality is that he's not elected leader.
Right. He's not elected leader. So he's supposed to have the election process going on. Instead of doing that, he is starting reasons to destabilize the entire country. First of all, he thrown away very competitive political leaders, including those who went back home from America, Jawar Mohammed, Lidertu, and other very, very competitive political leaders are in prison at this time. Also, very competitive Tigray leaders are now, we don't know where they are about. So I think the world is aware finally, after 40 days of a very devastating war in Tigray, that the American people, and included some senators, have released statements. So Tina Smith and multiple senators are releasing statements. UNHCR is releasing multiple statements. The European Union is holding the fund that's supposed to go to Ethiopia at this time, because they have, obviously, they know this guy is not a peaceful man. So can you, especially the Booker, today, I think Senator Booker Young is also released the statement. I will share this screen with you, and then what do you think about, is Abiy Ahmed is already exposed? Is the world aware now? So what's the next step you think is going to be?
Well, so of course he's exposed. He's run. I mean, he's attempted to elude and fool the world, and it is catching on to him now, and that's why. Why? I mean, think about it. Why do you think he's asked? He's actually now willing to pay 10 million Ethiopian birr for citizens of Tigray to help him find them when he knew where they're at. Obviously, I think, now he realizes that all the lies that he has been using his propaganda machine throughout the world, that to cover up his, unnecessary war that he opened up on civilians, and, over 2.3, I can't emphasize enough, children who needs humanitarian assistance are being blocked. There's actually another statement that I've read from some top U.S. State Department officials also saying that they're deeply concerned and deeply troubled by the inability for the federal government to allow humanitarian aid to enter the Tigray to help the people who needs help the most. And I think, I appreciate Senator Booker and others who, actually, Booker joined Senator Young, obviously, to show a bipartisan statement, which is Senator Young is a Republican. Senator Booker is a Democrat, but also an African American. The statement that they released jointly yesterday, I think that you show into the audience, it's very clear. They made it very clear that Senator Todd Young Republican from Indiana, the statements clearly states it that the U.S. government is aware of it, that Eritrean forces are still in Tigray, and they are forcefully returning Eritrean refugees in violation of international law, entering as a foreign invaders to dismantle and destroy Tigray, kill Tigrayans, and forcefully return Eritrean refugees who had safe haven in that region. So that what should be the next step? What should be the next action? I think this is very sensitive time. Obviously, I'm not going to pretend that I know all the answers, but I think what needs to happen is those of us in the diaspora who are pushing and working very hard, I think we just need to continue to bring out the truth, keep talking about it, let the world know that this man is evil, and he's following as a puppet to an evil man, Isaias Afwerki of Eritrea, who's murdered and dismantle the Eritrean people and the Eritrean infrastructure. How many Eritreans have we read stories about trying to cross the Mediterranean and drawn in the waters? How many young men and women from Eritrea has desperately seek shelter throughout the region and Europe and America? And most importantly, how many of them have fled Eritrea and came to Tigray and have peacefully lived in Tigray? So to bring stability to the region, to have democratic process, what needs to happen is that the world needs to stand together against this evil man who are hungry for power. Isaias, he's old enough that it will be a matter of time if they don't take him out. He's old enough that I think sooner rather than later he's going to die. But this Ahmed administration is trying to be perhaps North Korea style leadership, where he just want to seal off the country from the world while he massacred his own citizen. So to stop that, we need to continue the fight. We need to continue to expose the fact and expose his lies. Despite him talking to Parliament one thing in English and sending his puppets like his foreign ministry to lie to the world, we're not going to sit back and say nothing. That's why, I come out. I have, people already telling me, oh, you will never go to Ethiopia because you'll be next to be killed or jailed. And I'm not even an Ethiopian citizen because Ethiopia does not recognize dual citizenship. So you know what? So what? Be it. When my people are being murdered, when innocent children are being killed, and young girls being raped, I'm not going to sit around because I'm worried about somehow this guy. I'm not. You know what? I'm not afraid of Abiy Ahmed. What I'm concerned about is the innocent people who are caught up in this. So we're going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to speak against evil until evil is defeated or removed from office that he does not legitimately hold. And to do that, we need the world to unite. We need you do not have to be Tigray origin. Anyone who believes on the Tigray people, we are good people. We are loving people. No matter what religion, no matter what background, what ethnicity, we welcome everybody. Tigray, for the last 2.5 years, I've said in your last show, has been the most peaceful area in the entire Ethiopia. So to my Oromo friend, the Oromos had their freedom. It was up to them to unite and to govern their region peacefully. At the federal level, they pushed for more power because they are the most, by population, they have the largest population. However, it is in fact under the the prior administration under Medles that they enjoy their freedom to free speech, their freedom to practice and lead their language in the Oromia region, as well as in the Tigray region, the Amhara region. So you know, the way the system was set up, if they weren't happy, that's when you elect people that is going to speak for you, just like how we have it here in the U.S. So I hope that we will end this war sooner rather than later, because Ahmed and Isaias aren't going to be interested in saving lives or stopping this massacre that we've seen. But when we mount pressure, when the world stands with us and says enough is enough, I think, you know, that would be the defining moment. And if they want to continue with that, I think it's time for the UN to introduce resolution, not sanction, but even sending, like, you know, peacekeeping troops. I think it's time for the UN to stand up and deploy troops. That's the only way I think right now. I know it's like, for some of the audience, they probably think like, oh, this is like far stretch, but it's not. We got to do something. So if you ask me what a reasonable woman or man that has power in any government in the world, whether you're from Japan or Australia or Canada, the US, Europe, and China and Middle East, anywhere for that matter, you should be speaking out publicly. You should be coming united to say, you know what? We are not going to turn our backs, because right now, the majority of the world has turned their backs on the Tigray people, and it's very, very troubling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, like you say, today, U.S. Senators Cory Booker and Teddy Young, both members of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, releases the following statement regarding the recent conflict in Ethiopia. They said the conflict in Ethiopia remains far from over, despite Prime Minister Abiy claim that military operations are completed. We are deeply concerned by reports of Eritrean refugees in Tigray being killed, abducted, and forcibly returned to Eritrea by Eritrean forces, as well as disturbing reports that some trying to reach safer area are being prevented from leaving. The State Department has also reported that Eritrean soldiers are present in Tigray. The internationalization of this conflict poses a threat to U.S. interest in the strategic Red Sea region and could drive the Horn of Africa into protracted crisis from which it could take many years to recover and needlessly take thousands of lives. He said, which it takes the many years to recover, because they know that Meles Zenawi was doing hard work to get rid of the Al-Shabaab and to stabilize Horn Africa. That's why they are mentioning this. We join others from the international community who have urged Ethiopia federal government to abide by its commitment to grant security for humanitarian workers and full access to the 96,000 Eritrean refugees in Tigray, in addition to the over 2.3 million in children in need of humanitarian assistance.
2.3 million.
Yeah. 2.3 million in children in need of humanitarian assistance. We also call for an independent investigation into those claims of forced return and demand accountability for those who have violated international law Refugees are among the most vulnerable population on Earth. The international community must be there to protect them in their time of need. Finally, we extend our sincere condolences to the family of the humanitarian workers from the International Rescue Committee and the Danish Refugee Council who were killed in the conflict. We are deeply saddened by the untold number of lives taken by this needless conflict.
That's right.
Right, because we don't know what's going on in there. There is no internet, there is no phone. They are killing
what
people.
I was mentioning earlier, saying like there are so many stories that we don't know how many of them murdered. So I'm sorry I interrupt you, but what that tells me, and what's really chilling on this is that the U.S. has knowledge on some of this killing that's happening because they have satellite from orbit that they can see what's happening. So they can pinpoint where mass graves sites are taking place in Tigray. So it's not. So when you hear this statement from these two senators who actually chair the foreign relations, they're part of the foreign relations committee. They know a lot that we don't know because there's a intel briefing that takes place in the Senate subcommittee. So Senator Booker and Young has a lot of information that you and I and the rest of the world and Americans don't even know. So it's very telling. So what I want to say to the audience is that pay close attention to what's happening. And to our brother or sister from the Oromia who reached out, I appreciate and respect the question, but pay attention to this kind of detail. It's chilling. And I don't think you want to see based on tribes, the Oromo people being massacred by the central government for nothing other than minding their own business, electing a regional leader to govern their regional states. So it is very, very, very dangerous situation, and I am, deeply, deeply troubled by it. And I think the protest that is happening around the world. Today was day one, obviously, for people try to do like a international protest. I hope that people are following through social medias and trying to go out while they protect themselves from COVID. But I want to mention that there is a potential planning protest for those who are on the East Coast that can make it. On Monday, there will be a protest in New York City. There will also be a large protest that is in the work right now on January 8th. And if it goes for sure, I'm going to try to be there too. And I'm exposing myself, and that's okay. But we are going to, try to unite. We're going to call it international protest, but it's going to be at the State Department in Washington, D.C. on January 8th that we're helping. And we know January 20th is the new administration inauguration. So somewhere around either the 20th or the 22nd or both days, we're also going to try to hold a demonstration in New York City on the 23rd. I know I've thrown a lot of dates in there, but December 23rd, which is this coming week, there will be demonstration going on in LA. So for those who are out here listening, you have the ability to support us. Your voice is very key. And please spread the word and help to save lives, because right now we don't have enough people speaking out.
Exactly. And he finally stated that on his statement, in the face of continued violence against civilians, we remind all parties of their obligation to protect civilians and civilian infrastructure by following international humanitarian law. And we call on the administration to engage the government of Ethiopia, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, and the region to end the violence and further human suffering, and consider targeted sanctions on any political or military officials found responsible for violation. This is clear, and he mentioned who is responsible, who is accountable. Abiy Ahmed is responsible and Abiy Ahmed is responsible. And I think they are targeting the sanction towards him because there are about 2.3 million children are exposed and suffered in humanitarian crisis at this time. So I think I do appreciate for being with me, Mike. If you do have any message that before we jump up to Tigrinya speakers, friends, you can relay your message for something that we didn't mention and we didn't talk about. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Well, so you forgot to call him Ashrafat, because I think you call him Abi, so I'm going to call you up on that one.
I'll call him Mashrafat.
So I actually heard that really pisses him off. So if certain words that he's called upsets him, that he can actually order a massacre on his own people. Mm-hmm. This guy is something. But I will say that to those who are vocal about this, they're speaking out, standing out, like the senators we see, the other two senators from Washington, D.C., a week ago, who have over a week ago, who have also introduced resolution for potential sanction, which actually this letter that you read lines up with that resolution. We can get enough senators to rally behind this and hold the Ethiopian administration that is self-elected, not people's government, but a dictator, hold accountable for this massacre, for these killings. My message to the Tigray and Eritrean diaspora: hey, we've been through this before. We've lost brothers and sisters. We lost like mothers and fathers who fought on the valleys and mountains of Tigray and Eritrea. Mm-hmm. Those who fought for us and those who are fighting for us today, just keep in mind, they're not willing to give up and to betray the Tigray region. And the Eritreans who deeply care, we appreciate that. I'm glad the Eritrean diaspora and many Eritreans back home understands that Tigray and Eritreans are not enemies. We are brothers and sisters. Our enemy, we know who that is. But rather than emphasizing on that, let's continue to unite. Let us stand together. And I think peace in Eritrea and peace in Tigray means having the brothers and sisters from both sides who speak Tigrinya can live side by side in peace and harmony. And to our people back home, we are so proud of you. We are just so, I cannot express enough of my respect and love to the young men and women in Tigray who are standing against evil, fighting literally 5 to 10 soldiers from Tigray fighting over 100, 80 to 100 federal and Eritrean troops for 46 days. I mean, that's commendable. They're not using fighter jets. They're not using drones. They're not using tanks. They're using, like the Ethiopian federal officials, self-elected officials stated, they don't have anything. I mean, they said at the very beginning, they say they have a few AK-47, and he made a list. I'm not going to repeat it. But you know what? No matter how they sugarcoat it, no matter what the Ethiopian armed forces have been saying, I am so proud of them. It is sad that we're losing so many lives in the innocent civilians. But you mentioned earlier, where is a single leader from Tigray killed or arrested? And when they say the Tigray fighters, the Tigray regional government is a guerrilla fighter, how come you haven't captured a single one of them? I mean, you haven't even captured like 5% of Tigray region. So I want to finish it by saying, continue to be strong, continue to be united in Tigray, throughout Ethiopia. We know it's hard for you right now, but to the Tigaru and Tigrayan diaspora, you are doing such an amazing job. I mean, even those who don't even speak Tigrinya, how motivated. I mean, when you look at even social media, all of a sudden, how much of the Tigray flag, the word Tigray is coming out, the t-shirts that they're wearing and coming out. Like, you see my hat, right? There's a reason why every time I come to your show, I'm putting this hat on. I want the world to know that we matter, that Tagar lives matter, just like we say Black lives matter. So keep them in your thoughts, keep them in your prayers for those innocent women and children and the elderly who are being killed. But we're going to make it through, and there will be a day that we're going to mourn for the dead on the hands of evil, and we're going to celebrate for peace and justice for all moving forward, so nothing like this would ever happen. And we will unite and stand together and rebuild Tigray like never before.
Yeah. Well, it's obvious now they are not looking for the Tigray leaders. They're not trying to kill. They're not going to find them. It's obvious now they are distracting Tigray. They are killing Tigray people. It's just a genocide. It's already obvious now. They cannot find them. They say they are looking for them. If they are looking for them, do you think they care about their wife? How come? Subhat Naga's son was already killed. They have said it themselves. They are killing their son. They are killing their daughters. They are killing their wives. See Mesfin wife and son is already taken to the court because she's a wife, because the son of the previous leader. They're liars. They're not looking for they never seen them on the situation room. If they see in the situation room, even one of them, I know for sure they can kill millions of people to fight. They are killing millions of people. 2.3 millions of kids are exposed to get those Tigray leaders. But he came to the parliament. He tried to look a good person. And he said, oh, we've seen them. They were looking, messing around from the situation room. But because the kids and their wives were there, that's why we didn't kill them. Are you kidding me? How come Mesfin wife is in the court today because she's, how come Subhat Naga's son is killed? Well, he never done anything. He is a 20-something years old from Subhat Naga, one of the Tigray leaders. And Subhat Naga is already old, 70-something years old. He doesn't even know what's going on right now. He probably has a dementia at this time. He's an elderly person. He's supposed to go to the nursing home. But his son was killed because he is from the Tigray leader. Because he was born from because his dad is a Tigray leader. So that's not totally, it's obvious that this is a cleansing. This is a genocide. This is distracting the Tigray infrastructures. This is clear that they wanted to kill the Tigray people. This is clear. There is no doubt about it. And the entire people needs to be aware what's going on. The humanitarian agencies and all the US, the European Union, everything needs to be aware and help Tigray people. Thank you so much, Mike, and I will completely jump to Tigrinya. Please, دقعدة معركة موعلاتكم Tigrinya Cyber Power of Tigray بإنجليزية زغبرنا يصانحيت أو زودينا لنا هذه بتقرينيا توصنوا تم حزت نزرار ورنم زنورنا فوكس غيرنا بتقرينيا أنا حاتكم كنا حلفوا مينا أتن حزنين زنورنا نتبتات حدا انتايو منجستي تقراي ተደጋጋሚ ፈተነታት ተገይሩሉ እዩ ብኣብይ ክማረኹ ብዙሓት ኮማንዶታት ብኣንቴኖፍ ገይሮም ሰይዶም እዮም ናብ መቐለ እቶም ኮማንዶታት ተታሒዞም ድርድር ተገይሩሎም ምንም እንተክገብሩ እዮም መፅኦም ምሳና ይተረዳእኹምን ተባሂሎም 2-3 ግዜ ካልኣይ ድማ እንደገና ገንዘብ ሒዛ ዝመፀት ኣንቴኖፍ ተባሂላ ኣብ ውሽጣ ድማ ፌደራል ፖሊስን ኮማንዶታትን ነይሮም እዚ ናይ ትግራይ መንግስቲ መራሕቲ ተኣሲሮም ንክኸዱ ንክጭወዩ ፈድያን ንክግበሩ ብዙሕ ግዜ ተሞኪሩ ነገር ግን ናይ ትግራይ መንግስቲ ኣፍሽልዎ ድሓር እውን ብጣዕሚ አንኮምፎርተብል እንዳተሰምዖ ምስ ከደ ምስ ኢሳያስ ዝገብሮ ዝነበረ ምንቅስቃስ ስለዘይተመቸዎ ናይ ትግራይ መንግስቲ እቲ ኣብ ሰሜን ዝነበረ ኩነታት ይኹን ካልእ ይኹን ብዝሓፀረ እዋን ክእምኑ ዝኽእሉ ኣሚኖም ክቋፀሩ ዝኽእሉ ተቆፃፂሮም ዝገበርዎ ስራሕትታት ርዱእ ነይሩ ስለዚ ሕዚ ግን ናይዚ መቐፀልታ ብዙሕ ዕንወት ናይ ን30 ዓመት ሙሉእ ዝሃነፅናዮ ትምህርቲ ቤታት ፋብሪካታት ይበርስ ኣሎ ናይ መድሓኒት ፋብሪካ ዓዲግራት ዝነበረ ናይ ዓድዋ ቴክስታይል ኩሎም መብዛሕትኦም ናይ ሱር ኮንስትራክሽን ዶዘራት የጓዓዝዎን ኣለው ሆቴላት ስቶራት ኩሉ ተዘሪፉ ይኸይድ ኣሎ ብናይ ዕሱባት ወታደራት ናይ ኢሳያስ ናይ ኣብይ ኣሕመድ ወታደራት ሰባት መዓልታዊ ይቕተሉ ኣለው ብዙሓት ነገራት እዩ ዝግበር ዘሎ ስለዚ ሕዚ ዓለም እንዳተረዳኣ መፅኡ ብዙሓት ሴናተራት እውን ስቴትመንት እንዳፀሓፉ ይገልጹ ኣለው እዩ እሞ ኣብዞም 3 ነጥብታት እዚኣቶም ኢና ትኩርና ክንዘራረብ ፀኒሕና نزوم 3 ነጥብታት ድማ ሕዚ ሕፅር ብዝበለ መልክዕ ማይ ካሳሁን ክገልጸልና እዩ ብዙሕ ብትግርኛ ክስታይ ንገብርን እንዳገለጽናዮም ስለ ፀናሕና ኣብዚኦም ሕቶታት እንድሕር ሃልዩ ትሰድዎ ዘለኹም ቴክስትታት ንሪኦ ስለ ዘለና ኣብ ሕቶኹም ክትሳተፉ ትኽእሉ ኢኹም ምሳና ትገልጽዎ ዘለኩም ሓሳባት እውን ኢምፖርታንት እንድሕር ኮይኑ ኣብቲ ሜይን ፔጅ እንዳጠቃዕና ንሕብረተሰብና ክነሪኦ ክንምኩር ኢና ኣብዚ ዘለኩም ፓርቲሲፔሽን ብጣዕሚ እንዳመስገና ሳይበር ፓወር ኦፍ ትግራይ ኩሉ ግዜ ንዓኻትኩም እዋናዊ ዝኾነ ሕቶታት ከምፀልኩምን ምሳኻትኩም ክዛተን ድሌቱ ዝለዓለ እዩ ሕዚ ቀጥታ ናብ ማይክ ካሳሁን ክኸይድ ማይክ ከምቲ ዓንትዎ ብእንግሊዝኛ እንዳተዘራረብናሉ ፀናሕና ኣፍተን ዝነበራ ምኮራታት ኣብቲ ናይ ዲስትራክሽን ናይቲ ኣሰት ዝኒኤ ሃፍቲ ናይ ትግራይ እና ዓለም ሕዚ ተረዲእዋ ግብረ መልሲ ኣብ ትበሉ ግዜ ብዙሓት ሴናተራት እውን መልሲ ኣብ ዝብሉ ግዜ ኢና ዘለና እሞ ብዙይ ዝምልከት ጠቕልል ዝበለ ሓሳብ ክትበና ብትሕትና ንጥይቕ ቴንክ ዩ
ቴንክ ዩ ኤፍሬም ከምቲ ዝበልካዮ ያው ብትግርኛ እናገለፅና ስለ ዝፀናሕና ያው ሕፅር ኣቢልና እቲ ቅድሚ ሒዝም ሓድሓድ ነገር ካብ ንደጋግሞ በብግዚእታት ሓድሓድ ድሽታት ነገር ገልገሊ ሰብ ዝሰምዖ ይኸውን እዩ ገልገሊ ዘይሰምዖ ከዓ ክነርድኦ ንሓስብ እንታይ እዩ ሒዙ እንተኾነ ኩናት እኒሄ እዩ እንታይ ዳ እዩ ድምፂ ጠፍዩ ገለታት ተበልኩም ሕዚ ወያነ ትግራይ ኣብ ስራሕ የብና የብሎምን ስርሖም እዮም ዝሰርሑ ዘለዉ ወራሪ ዘመተኛ መፅኡ ናይ ኤርትራ ጦር ሃይሊ ናይ ፌደራል ተባሂሉ ዝነበረም ናትና ውፅኦም ካብኡ ናይ ብሽም ተጋሩ ናይ ተጋሩ ከም ትፈልጥዎ ውፅኦሞም እዮም ናመውፅኦም ድማ ኣበይ ከም ዝጨወይዎም ኣበይ ከም ዝቀተልዎም ዘይፍለጥ ክንደይ ጉዳት ዝግበር ዘሎ ብኣብይ ኣሕመድና ንኣብይ ኣሕመድ ከዓ ያው ሽሙ ወፂዎ ዘሎ መሽረፈት ኣሕመድ ኢና ዘለና ኣብ ሓሳባት ክነቕርበልኩም ሓፂሩ ግን ትክክለኛ መገድታት ብዙሕ ህዝቢ ይጎደእ ኣሎ ሒዙ እንተኾነ ኣብዚ ሕዚ 2 መዓልትታት ውሽጢ ንኣብነት ሓደ ቦታ መልእኽትታት መሓላለፉ ዘሎ 154 ኣብ ቤተክርስትያን ኣብ ሓንቲ ቤተክርስትያን ተፀጊዖም ፈሪሖም ዝነበሩ ሰባት ህፃውንቲ ቆልዑ ደቂ ኣንስትዮ ዓበይቲ ሰባት ብናይ ሻዕብያ ወታደር ተረሺኖም ካብኣቶም ዝሞቱ ኮለይ ሓደ ቀሺ ማለት እዩ ተቐቲሉ እዩ ኣብዚ ሕዚ ቀረባ ግዜም ናይ ግላውታት ዝኾና ናይ ትግራይ መንግስቲ ዝኾነ ንብረትና መካይናት ሒዙም ይዝረፈሎ እዩ ቅድሚ ሒዙ ተዘሪፉ እዩ ሒዙ እንተኾነ ይቕፅል እዩ ዘሎ ኣብ ጅቡቲ ትበሃል ሃገር ናብ ኢትዮጵያ ጎኒ ዘላ ቦታት ናይ ዝኣቱ ብባሕሪ ገይሩ ናብ ትግራይ ዝፀዓና መካይናት ካብ 170 ላዕሊ ዝኾና ዳርጋ እስካብ 190 ከባቢታት ዝቁፀራ መካይን ናይ ኢትዮጵያ ድህነታት ልኢኹ ናተ እየን ናይ ፌደራል መካይን ይልኹ ዘርፈን ምስ ሞከረ ኣብቲ ጅቡቲ ዝነበሩ እቶም ዘወርቲአን ሽፈራት ተጋሩ ትክክለኛ ኣይኮነን ዘን መካይን እዚአን ብፌደራል ዝመሓደር ኣይኮናን እዚ መንግስቲ ናይ ኢትዮጵያ ግን ሓስዩ ይኹም ዝብል ዘሎ ኢሎም ጠሪዖም ንግዚኡ ጠጠው ኣቢሉ እቲ ናይ ጅቡቲ መንግስቲ እስካብ ዝፃር ተባሂሉ ኣይተረከበን ዘሎ እምበር ማዕረኾም እዚኣት እኒሄ ኣብ መቐለ ዝነበረ ናይ ክንደይ በቃ ናይ ጉድጓድ ፍሓርቲ መካይን ናይ መንግስቲ ናይ ግለውታት ካልእ ትረፍ ናይ ቤተክርስትያናት ወፃኢ ሃገር ኮይኖም መዋእትዮም መካይን ንቤተክርስትያን ንሰብ ምሕገዝ ዝነበራ መካይን ኣምቡላንስ ዝነበራ ተቀርያ እናጓሓፉ ናብ ኤርትራ ዝወስድዎም ዘለዉ እዚ እቲ ፅዒኖም ክወስድዎ ዘይኽእሉ ኸ ኣብኡ ዝቃፀል የቃፅልዎ ዝፈርስ የፍርስዎ ኣለዉ ካብ ኩሉ ዘሕዝን ከዓ ቀውዒ ስለ ዝኾነ ኣብ ዓድና ሎሚ እኽልታት ፍቑድ ሃገረሰብ ትግራይ ሙሉእ ህዝቢ ዓፂዱ ከየእቱ ኣብ መከራ እዮም ኣትዮሞ ዘለዉ እዚኣት ሓሲብና ግን እንታይ ክብል እየ እቲ ቀንዲ ዕላማ እቲ ሰብ ዝመውት ዘሎ እዩ እቲ ዓብዪ ክሳራ ንኣና ንሕና ትግራይ ብፅፍርና ኣብ ወፃኢ ዘለና ተጋሩ ኣብ ሃገር ዘለዉ ተጋሩ ሓብረ ኮይና ሰጢምና ሓደ መስመር ሒዝና ትግራይ ምስ ንፈትዎም ኣዕሩኽትና ሃገራት ናባና ዝፅግዑ መን እዮም እናተመያየጥና እቲ መፅኡ እኒሄ ፀገም ሰሪሕና ከም እንደገና ክነስተኻኽሎ ኢና ካብቲ ዝነበረ ዝበለፀ ዋላ ናይ 30 ዓመት ተፍረስዎ ድሓን ንሱ ኮይኑ እዩ ተዘይኸውን ፅቡቕ ነይሩ ግን ስለዝኾነ ብወይ ኮነን ክንናደድ ዘለና ምክንያቱ ዝኾነ ንብረት ክነጥርዮ ንኽእል ኢና ክስደት ዘለና ኩልና ሒዚ ዓበይቲ ኮይና ተሰደድና ቆልዑ ኮይና ተሰዲድና ክዳውንቲ ኣብ ዘባና ዝነበረ ኢና እምበር ኣቑሑት ካብ ዓድና ወይ ደማ ሃፍቲ ቅርሺ ሒዝና ይወፃና ሰሪሕና እንደምንም ኢልና ግን ጎጎጀና ሒዝና ነብር ሰባት ኢና ሕዚ ድማ ፅቡቕ ተዋፅኦ እናተገበረ ፅቡቕ መገድታት ይካየድ ኣሎ እዩ ሕብረታት ባህልታት ናይ ናትና ደስ ዝብል ከመይ ገርና በቃ ንተሓባበር ከም ዘለና ደስ ስለ ዝብል እዚ ሓበሬታ ኣዝዩ ሞራልና ከይስበር እናጠንከርና መስመርና ከይንርስዕ ህዝቢ መናእሰይ ደቂ ኣንስትዮና ደቂ ተባዕትዮ ተጋሩ 46 መዓልቲ 3 መዓልቲ ጉረኛ መሽረፈት ኣሕመድ 3 መዓልቲ ንትግራይ ተቋፂረ ኣሲረ ከምፆም እየ ወይ ቀትሎም እየ ዝፈከረሉ ሒዚ ተመሊሱ ኣብዛ ኣተዎ ይርኢ እየ ዝወልዕዎ ይፈልጥ እየ ደቂ ኣንስትዮዮም ስለ ዘለዎ ምፆም እየ ዝየ እናበለ ሰው እናቃጠረ ፀኒሑ ኣቃጣሪ ስለ ዝኾነ ኩርኩር ናይ ሻዕብያ ድማ ናይ ኢሳያስ ስለ ዝኾነ እዚ ኩርኩር ሒዚ ከም ህፃን ኩርኩር ኣዲያቶም ዝጠፎም ናብዛ ኣተዎ ጨኒቕዎ በሉ ትግራይ በቃ ሒዚ ንዑ ሓግዙኒ ኣነ ንኣኻትኩም 10 ሚልዮን ብኢትዮጵያ ክበኩም ገንዘብ ኣብ ዘለውዎ ሓግዙኒ እዩ እናበለ ሒዚ ናብ ምልማን ኣትዩ ኣሎ ምርኩስ ዳ ዘይሓዘ እምበር ይልምን እዩ ዘሎ ሒዚ ንህዝቢ ትግራይ ትማሊ ይቀትሎ ነይሩ ሒዚ ይቀትሎ ኣሎ እዩ እናቀተለን እቲ ህዝቢ ታረኛ እንደገና እናለመነ ንዑ ሓግዙኒ ዝሓግዝኩምን ገንዘብ ክበኩም እየ እዚ ኢልካ ዘየለ ፕሮፓጋንዳ እዩ ተጋሩማ ንሕና ሂወትና ይንሸይጥን ኣሕዋትና ኣሕሊፍና ንሸይጥና ይንህብን እዚ ክርዳእና ኣለዎ እዚ መስመር ሒዝና ከዓ እዚ ኣራሜን እዚዩ ብምርጫ ዘይተመረፀ መንግስቲ ኣምበገነን ስልጣን ሒዙ ህዝቢ ጨቁይኑ ባህሊ ናይ ትግራይ ቋንቋ ናይ ትግራይ ሰሪዙ እቲ ዝደልዮ መገዲ ኣምበገነን ኮይኑ ንክነብር ዕላማ ሒዝዎ ዘሎ ከምዘይ ንሕና ከምዘይ ይቕፅለሉ ከዓ ህዝቢ ትግራይ ዋላ ሞራልና እንተተንከፈ ዋላ ህዝብና እንተቆሰለ እንተተቀተለ ነብሲ ወከፍ ትግራዋይ ሓደ ብሓደ መሬትናማ ንኩሉ ትግራዋይ ተቀቲሎም እዮም ዝረኽብዋ እምበር ኣይረኽብዋን እዮም ረመፅ እያ መሬት ትግራይ ኣብኣ ድማ ተቃፅሎም ኣላ እያ ኣይምሰርኩም ጥዕምዎ ዘለኹ ይመስለኩም ኣብዪ ኣሕመድ ኣብዚ ድቅሶ መደቀሲ ለይቲ ለይቲ ቆይ ጨንቆ ዘሎ ካብ ሓንቲ ሆቴል ናብ ሓንቲ ሆቴል እናዘረኡ ዝሓድር ዝውዕል ዘሎ ንሱ ንባዕሉማ ኣንቀጥቂጡ መዓዝ ኮን ይቐትሉ መን ኮን ይቐትለኒ ኢሉ ሒዚ ናንቀጥቀጠ እዩ ዝሓድር ዘሎ ስኩዕ እናበለ ፈቆዶ ተኣሽሙ እዩ ኣብ ሆቴላት እዩ ዝድቅስ ዘሎ ሒዚ እዚኣ ግን ክንደይ ግዜ ከም ሃገር ክነብረላ ክንሪኣ ኢና ዝሮ ዝሮ እንታይ ክብል ኣሕዋተይ ዕላማታት ኣኼባታት ብምሉእ እናተኻየደ ሰላማዊ ሰልፍታት ሓበሬታት ከመይ እናገበርና ብምንታይ ዜናታት ብምንታይ ክነመሓላለፍ ሒዚ ዳርጋተን ናይ ትግራይ ዜናታት እውን ስለዘይመፅኣና ዘለዋ በይቲ ከምቲ ናይ ቅድሚ ሒዚ እንታይ እዩ ናለ ብዙሕ ዝጭነቕ ሰብ ኣሎ ንሱ ኣይኮነ ክንሓስብ ዘለና በብመገድና ነብሲ ወከፍ ሒዚ سلام وصل فتنا أنا سلام وصل زكاني قدام لما عنتي الانترناشنال جمر قد حتى هيراني رأيا الوصاهم سلام وصل زجوركم دعمنا مسجن كسالخا زمسلو دحر قلت معلت سوني مارتيو أو نيويورك ختمة سلام وصل بريو هذا زمسلو رو عندنا بعشرين سلستن بناي زعدق عصرة أو لوس أنجلوس كاليفورنيا كم سلام وصل فكهديو أو زلهم نقارن زلهم تساتفوا عام زلكم نتساتفونا نتفلطوا وساعتين حسابات نختاروا لهم بقى هيزي أدلاي حبريتنا كلنا خن الرادة كلنا بحر خن سرح يقبلنا عيرة حساس قرب كأوخي أب جانوار شو منتم أب واشنطن دي سي أفتناي أمريكا ستيت ديبارتمنت تأكيدنا خيرنا سلام وصل عبي سلام وصل جبرنا بإنترناشنال كم عرف زراعتي وصل أيو نحن فلكم من عزياتنا زموس وتاتس إنه ويا نحن الحريزجن أنا عدنا نبرت توريسو كم زياد سجل مصيرنا بوتات الحريز مع البقع تقبلنا يئنا نستاد كعسونا ولن هزونا كما يجرنا كن عجزنا كابز مكرا سدات بتميت بخارج نجرز قداز زلوا درشون زلوا نقطات مفتعي كما يمكن قبل كابز النايت ميات اللي نازل مثلا إفريم مكان دي
اوكي يا السلام عليكم فيكم تقلص كايو بانترناشنال درجه جانواري 8 كم بلان تحيزو ليو نسون كاب بحز جميرو تسب كله كستهجورو على زبل منتلنا كل نجر I think تقلص كاي مثلني على حسب تزعليكا موداتا بالإنجليزية بالتقريبا تقرأنا حسب I think أبزي كالي تحلفوا من الأخت وين دما تايسون تزيهاليو بوجناي تن مجمرة كنرين حسبنا مالتيو زرعنا ينون تن ناي distraction تحزون تناي تجراي هافتي يزرفوا له ناي سورد construction دفاع خوات نيرو قردون دابلو فليتهم كله يوسدوا له يوم يرتران وتدرات يوسدوا له يوم ناي ناي أبي أحمد سراويتون إنه وصل إيزرلو نهزب تجراي ريبيو لهنجبرنا قرينا زبال حسوتي زياتهم حزون نتهم ناي واحد مرحتي كحزنا يومنا كنحزومنا نريهم لنا situation room قينا نريهم لنا زولو زنورو أي ريوم نيرو تزريوم نيرو نوعاتهم موقعهم نيرو جن نحسوت معتيو توان علامهم نحو واحد مرحتنا محازي كونس تجراي نمدفع أيو علامهم تجراي نخطفو تجراي نمدفع ناي تجراي لمعت بمول إنه مفراس زنبر علامة سلزخونة لو زيني علامة دما كله تزب تجراي تينك ترديو نزي كستهجبر الله زبل منتلنا سلزي تناي علم مرئيو دما أبز حزقوان علم بملاحظ نقيحات اللوم يا زلا كله بصحة سيناترسون أبزي استتمنت أو سيوم ناي أبي أحمد responsibility accountable كهون له sanction ون كجبر له زبل تايسون تاتيم زحلف زلوا hopefully لو ما عندي نا إيجاد بيان منجستات ناي أفريقيا مالتيو تناي السودان prime minister يلي كامبرو باي زوي تلي كامبر ناي السودان prime minister عبد الله حمدوك يو سلازي hopefully لما عند زجبر meeting تناي أبي أحمد زلوا خناتات صوص سنة كرجع زخل حساب كوي كل يوم زبل أمنة لنا hopefully نوعو تخطاتيلنا نايت إيجاد أخيوانا لما عند زجبر زلوا أب جيبوتي نسورينا بزعو ريزالتو ويدما أنت عينة وسنة 5 سنة رينا صباح أبديت خنوكمينا كالي جن تناي عالم جن طلع ناي تجراي انترست ناي تجراي حزبي مقصوار كساب كل 3 مليون قلعو humanitarian crisis أتيهم كم زلوا ناي لما عنتي كل سيناترس كاب واشنطن دي سي statement ريليز غيرهم له بزحات humanitarian agency تاتون أو زي فوكس غيرهم يزاروا له حزب تجراي دياسبورا تجراي ون سلام وسفيهون ناي تويتر كامبين قالسو ندعص على يزركب بوخ اتصل له زول امنه لنا ناي ني ابي احمد ناي سياسن موتن ክነቃላጥፈሉ እንኽእል መንገዲ ብዲፕሎማሲ ይኹን ኣብ ታሕቲ መሬት ድማ ባዕሉ ህዝቢ ትግራይ ይቃለሰመሎ እዩ ብዙሕ ህዝቢ ትግራይ እውን ይቆትልዎ ኣለዉ እዮም እዚ እንዳቃልዕና ዝግበሩ መጥቃዕትታት ዝግበሩ መቐተልቲ ዝግበሩ መዝረፍትታት ኩሎም ብዝተኻለ መጠን ክትረኽቡ ከለኹም ናብ ዝምልከቶም ሰባት እንዳሓለፍኩም ናይ ዓለም ናይ ክራይም ወንጀለኛታት ኮይኖም ንክክሰሱ ንገብሮ ፃውዒት ኩሉ ግዜ ኣተሓሒዝና ክንቅፅለሉ ይግባእ ዝብል እምነት ኣለና ብዝተረፈ ኣይ ቲንክ ዝነበረና ፃንሒት ኣብ ሳይበር ፓወር ትግራይ ምስ ማይ ካሳሁን ኣብዚ ወዲና ኣለና መወዳእታ ማይክ ዘሕልፎ መልእኽቲ ንህዝቢ ትግራይ ንዳያስፖራ ትግራዋይ ንኩሉ ንኤርትራውያን ኣሕዋትና ንቃልሲ ዝድግፉ ኤርትራውያን ኣሕዋትና ትህቦ መልእኽትን ሓሳብ እንተሃልየ መወዳእታ ዕድል ክበካ ድሕሪኡ ክነዓፅፍ
ثانك يو ما بقى تي ملقت انتهي مسلكا ቅድሚ ሒዘ ይረአልና እየን ኣብ ወፃእ ዝኒኹም ተጋሩ ዓዲ እናተጨነቕና ሓርሓር ነገራት ጥንቃቐ ዘድልየና ስልኪ ተጠንቀቑ ስልኪ ክትድውሉ ተለኹም ማሴጅ ክትፅሓፉ ተለኹም እናኣተው ይጠልፍዎ እና ይሰምዑ ከም ዘለው ሙሉእ ንብሙሉእ ብ100 ኣብ ልብኩም ክትቅበልዎና ክትሓስብሉ ኣለኩም ስለዚሁ ዘየድሊ ፖለቲካ ዘየድሊ ዘረባ ኣብ ወፃእ ዘለና ሃገርን ኣብ ህዝብና ውሽጢ ሃገር ዝኒሄን መብቱ ዘይኽበር ምዃኑ ህዝቢ ስለ መንግስቲ ስለ ዝኒሄ ህዝብና ከይንጎድእ ኣሕዋትና ከይጉድኡና ተወሳኺ ካብቲ መከራ መፂዎ እኒሄ እንደገና እቶም እስካብ ሕዚ ዘይተዳሕና ዝኒሄው ስልክታት እንተኮይኑ ሓደ ግዜ ድምፆም ተሰሚዕኩም ሰላም ኢልኩም ياخذكم زعوانا انتهي النهاية انتهي زموت النهاية انتهي سقمات النهاية زيادة انك يقوروا تعاون زلوا بتلي بمدول جنزب نخافركم تدولوا زلهم بتناي منقستي تيليكوميونيكيشن تم حرارة في سلازاتو نسهم كل نسو نوم اكسس غيرهم نسمع خمس قليليو ولا تقرينات زاركم ما فندي نوم يوم لا يونا ينهاتنا نهيوتهم نهاجرهم شيطان نهيوتهم طقمهم كل جزء هولو زحجزوا من يوم يوم قال يترف عزي از أربع جزء أبن عد قرات وحاله بتا تتحازل لو يوم بوس اللي لقيته منو خد جفوز مكر نتاكل لي السلكات أنا قاعد ليو بتكس مسج ولا ما بسلكي انتهوا لكم واتساب تبع النهاية بتاع واتساب يدخل وان تكونكم من أسي حوات تليمهم وإذا ما أنا نتحاوركم خلينا نساعد داونلود جركم في سمارت فون بتاع واتساب انكريبتد سلطاني انكريبتد نسو أتيخ سمعه أتيخ كاترنا من قصة عالمنا ناي هذه مشرفة أحمد سلذي خل هو تتقامو على حساب الحواريتا يقرب لكم أو ترفقين تزاروا نحن لكم هنا يعني الله خمس جاركم كتالكم أيهم تنكروا هذه تجراي وتقدر تجاروا عندنا زنيكم تجاروا زلهم تاريخ تكايد وزلهم وجه نكاتل لنا نحن هذا ما بعضنا ولا قلنا كنا طيت زي تقصنا بزي كنا بعضنا جن بزعواهم بقولنا كنا نهز عالم الناس معنا ولا تكاد تخلينا مخانو زي كنا نارنا فأخذكم حرينا تسينا بقولنا كم تسلفنا خونكم نخت معكم نخطلتوا هي حسب زي محل فلكم صاريكم من لكم تاريخ دما زي رسع تاريخيو فأخذكم دما كم نخرج ناس عندنا كم نحز هاجرنا ጥያቄ ይውልን ማንም ትግራዋይ በአኻትኩም ዝخرع እምበር ዝጥይቅ የለን እዩ እዚ ግዴታ እዩ በቃ ኣነ ዝበልኮ ስለ ዘይኮነማ ኣያታትና ገይሮሞ እዮም ኣሕዋትና ገይሮሞ እዮም ሕዚ ለማ ንስኻትኩም ትገብርዎ ኣለኹም ስለዚሁ ዋላ መሪር ተኾነ ንብሎ ኮይና ቃልስና መሪር እዩ ዓወትና ናይ ግድን እዩ ኢሎም ኣያታትና ኣሕዋትና ዝበልዎ ደጊም ተሪኡና ኣለኹም እዩ በቃ ዝዓወት እዩ وقت مانجو وسووا من هنا يعني جن موت نموت هم نحرق لهزنا تعارسنا لهاجرنا تعارسنا زي نموت لكم وده بركاتات سرع تنكر سرعتكم نزي عم بجنن عبد الدكتور عبد الشانن عقرقر تمسحهم لما بنهاتكم جنناتي نا إرتراو تادر نا محراو تادر ናይ ብሔረ ብሔር ኢትዮጵያ ሙሉእ ወታደር ናይ ፌደራል ወታደር መፅኡ ንኣኻትኩም ብደውኩም ክበልዕ እዩ ሞኪሩ ነይሩ ክንስረር ኢኹም ጀጋኑ እዚ ጅግንነት እዚማ ብዓለም ብላዕሊ ብሰማይ ኣየራት ደውድዩኩም ብባይታ ብታንክታት ደውድዩኩም ግን ኣሕሊፍኩም ዘይትህቡ ጀጋኑ ማለት ንስኻትኩም እዞም ኣሕዋተይና ኣየኹም ኣብ ጎንኹም ድማ ተሰሊፍና ንሕና ብወፃኢ ኮይና ሃገርና ንስኻም ኮይና ከም እነስተኻኽሎ ከም እንመሓይሾ ጥያቄ የብልን ንግዚኡ ሕዚ ግን ትሰርሕዎ ዘለኹም ታሪክ ቀፅልሉ ኣየኹም ኣሕዋተይ እና ይቕኒየለይ
ጽቡቅ ሳይበር ፓወር ኦፍ ትግራይ ጽባሕ ናይ ጽባሕ ፕሮግራምና ምስ ዳደ ደስታ አቶ ዳደ ደስታ ጋዜጠኛ ከዋሽንግተን ዲሲ ጽባሕ ምስ ሳይበር ፓወር ኦፍ ትግራይ ሰዓት 8 ኤኤም በፓሲፊክ ታይም ብናይ ዲሲ ታይም 11 ኤኤም ምሳና ክነቕርቦ ኢና ዝተፈላለዩ ኣፕዴትድ ዝኾኑ ኢንፎርሜሽን ዘሎ ናይ ኮሚኒቲ ኦርጋናይዜሽን ዝርዝር ምሳና ቀሪቡ ጋሻና ስለ ዝኸውን ጽባሕ ንጎሆ ሰዓት 8 ኤኤም ብናይ ፓሲፊክ ታይም ክትጽበዩና ብዘጋጣሚ እዚ ንኣኻትኩም ገልጽ ይፈቱ ብዝተረፈ ሎማዓንቲ ሳይበር ፓወር ኦፍ ትግራይ ምሳና ኮይኑ ጋሻ ኮይኑ ብእንግሊዝኛን ብትግርኛን ቃለ መጠይቅ እንዳገበረልና ዝፀንሐ ክቡር ሓውና ማይ ካሳሁን ክብረት ይሃበልና እንዳበልና ሳይበር ፓወር ኦፍ ትግራይ ሎማዓንቲ ዝነበሮ ምድላዋት ኣብዚ ወዲኡ ኣሎ ካሊእ ግዜ ብተመሳሳሊ ፕሮግራም ንስኻትኩም ክሳብ ንራኸብ ድሓን ሕደሩ ንብል ባና ምሸት ስለ ዘሎ ዝወግሐልኩም ሰባት ድማ ጽቡቕ መዓልቲ ይግበረልኩም ንብል ማለት እዩ